Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry for the delay. Welcome to the America-Israel Chamber of Commerce, Chicago, and America-Israel Economic Forum 2021 Innovation Showcase. I am Scott Glickson, President of the Chamber. The Chamber's mission is to promote business and investment transactions between businesses and individuals in Israel and businesses and individuals in the greater Chicagoland area. If you are or know of an Israeli company seeking assistance with doing business in the U.S., or if you are a U.S.-based business looking for assistance doing business in Israel or seeking connections there, we will be happy to talk with you. For more information about the Chamber and the Forum, including becoming a member, please visit our website at www.americaisrael.org. Please also feel free to donate when you're there. Today's program, as I presume you all know, is about artificial intelligence, and we have a great speaker and three very interesting companies that we'll be presenting to you. I will leave it to others to tell you more about each of them. As always, I'm compelled to mention the disclaimer that preceded the program that on behalf of the Chamber, the Forum, and our sponsors, as much as we are impressed by our speakers and presenting companies, this program is not an endorsement or recommendation, and it is the responsibility of each Chamber member, attendee, program participant, or user to independently examine and verify the validity of any information provided today. Before I get out of the way, I want to thank our Executive Director, Michael Schmidt, for all of his efforts as part of the team that organized today's program and for everything else he does for us and for those who seek our help. I also want to thank the committee that organized this event, co-chairs Len Ferber of Catton Law and Amy Stoken of OurCrowd, and committee members Robert Eisenstadt of Cutchins, Robbins, and Diamond, and Matthew Goldfarb of Gould and Ratner. And of course, we appreciate those who have supported us by sponsoring today's program. Howard Bernstein, the America-Israel M&A Link, Gould and Ratner, my wife and I, Scharf Banks Marmer, Susan Rosenstein Executive Search, William Blair, Catton, OurCrowd, Tiffany Tamplin, IC Stars, Interim Execs, and Hilco Global. As anyone who's been involved in a program such as this knows, it requires a team to produce it. And I want to also acknowledge our friends at the Office of Israel's Consul General to the Midwest, Ben-Gurion University, and the American Friends of Ben-Gurion University, and the Economic Trade Commission of the Embassy of Israel for their support. I also want to thank OurCrowd for providing its platform and technical support for today. This is the first of a number of programs we will be presenting between now and early December, featuring interesting Israeli and American companies and current hot technologies, and culminating with our Business Leader Award event, which we are planning to hold in person, hopefully. Details for these events will be forthcoming. Finally, as always, I urge you to buy Israeli-produced goods and patronize the companies listed in the Buy Israel Goods section of our website. And now I'd like to turn the program over to one of today's co-chairs, Amy Stoken.
I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who is here. And as a reminder, we are closed to the press and off the record. As a board member of AICC and a staff member of OurCrowd, it is a privilege to focus on the amazing technology that is coming out of Israel and to witness how Israel is shaping the future and advancing the world in important and positive ways. We are excited to share a bit of that with you today in the AI space. We will hear an overview from our keynote speaker, Professor Gall, and then we will turn to our panel featuring three inspiring Israeli companies that are representing very different aspects of AI. For questions, you can either put them in the chat function or you can email me directly at amy.stoken, STOKEN, @ourcrowd.com. And finally, when we conclude the program, you are welcome to join an on-screen Zoom. We will put the Zoom link in the chat function to come on screen and have a little bit more follow-up discussion with some of our panelists. So with that, thank you again for joining us today. And now I would like to turn this over to my co-chair, Matt Goldfarb.
Thank you, Amy. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce Ariella Rada, who in 2018 assumed the post of Counsel for Economic and Community Affairs at the Consulate General of Israel to the Midwest. In addition to Ms. Rada's years of diplomatic experience, including time spent as an IDF commander tasked with training new recruits and her appointment as chief of mission to the Israeli embassy to Peru, Ms. Rada brings with her a unique and powerful perspective, having been born to a Jewish family in Ethiopia and ultimately immigrating to Israel with her family in 1984. Ms. Rada completed her BA in government, diplomacy, and strategy, and later an MA in conflict resolution at the Interdisciplinary Center, Herzliya. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm virtual welcome to Ms. Ariella Rada.
Thank you so much, Matt, and shalom, and good afternoon, everyone here, and good evening to everybody joining from Israel. On behalf of the Consulate General of Israel to the Midwest, it is my pleasure to welcome all of you to this fascinating discussion about artificial intelligence. I want to take a moment to thank Scott Glickson and Michael Schmidt at the America-Israel Chamber of Commerce in Chicago, as well as the co-chairs of today's event, OurCrowd represented by Amy Stocken and Catton Law Firm represented by Len Ferber for organizing this amazing event and for their kind invitation for me to speak here today. Artificial intelligence has quickly become a game changer across the globe in fields ranging from transportation and manufacturing to healthcare and customer service by expanding on autonomous intelligence and minimizing human error. We're proud of the initiative that Israel has taken to prioritize its development, with Tel Aviv emerging as artificial intelligence hub, a title it has won due to its network of universities, research, and development institutions, close cooperation with the military and government support. But the reach of AL in Israel goes beyond our borders. It presents us many opportunities for future cooperation with countries around the world, including our greatest ally, the United States of America. In fact, just last month, legislation was introduced in US Congress for the creation of a US-Israel Artificial Intelligence Research and Development Center, which would attract talent from both Israel and the US while enhancing global security and sharing best practices. We look forward to more cooperation between Israel and the US in this promising industry. The Consulate's economic team, which I lead, seeks to help create and expand partnership between Israeli and Midwest companies and different institutions. Please do not hesitate to reach out to us. And like all of you, we are thrilled to learn more about today's program. So without further ado, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak here, and please enjoy the rest of the program. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ariella. For those who don't know me, I'm Len Ferber, one of the co-chairs for today's event. You know, when you start to organize an event like today's, you start throwing out ideas. And to be honest, those ideas are often just buzzwords that you've heard and you probably don't understand. Well, that was the genesis for today's program on artificial intelligence. Those of us on the planning committee certainly knew the phrase artificial intelligence and probably could use the abbreviation AI in a sentence, but I'm pretty sure none of us fully comprehended what it really means. But we thought it would be intriguing to begin to explore that world and perhaps answer a lot of questions that people might have about AI, including, can computers really think? Now, personally, I don't think so. However, our keynote speaker today should be able to tell me whether I'm right or wrong. So I would like to introduce Professor Kobi Gal. Professor Gal is a member of Ben-Gurion University's Department of Information Systems Engineering and head of their Human-Computer Decision-Making Lab, as well as an associate professor at Harvard University's School of Engineering and Applied Sciences. He has published over 40 papers on AI and related subjects and is the recipient of many awards, including Wolf Foundation's 2013 Krill Prize for Young Israeli Scientists. And he's also a 3-time recipient of Harvard's Outstanding Teacher Award. I would like to thank the Americans for Ben-Gurion University, and especially Emily Nassatir, for helping us to secure Professor Gal for today's talk. So now please join me in welcoming Professor Kobe Gal.
Thank you very much. Can people hear me well?
Yes.
Great. Shalom, Len. Shalom, everyone. Thank you so much for this wonderful introduction. I'm super excited to be with you today. It's a wonderfully cool evening in Beersheba, and I'm delighted to talk to you a little bit about artificial intelligence. And I should say that I'm particularly excited to be talking to you guys after my initial discussion with Len, when he gave me a list of amazing questions about artificial intelligence. Man, I could talk an entire course about each of these questions. And maybe the first thing I want to do is to invite Len and anyone out there who cares about AI and wants to learn more to consume our upcoming massive open online course that's actually being produced by the State of Israel and is being spearheaded by Ben-Gurion University. And it's coming out soon as a free online course. So you can take an entire course on AI, Len. There's just one caveat. It's going to be in Hebrew. It's the first course in Hebrew. So if your Hebrew is a little rusty, you can get your Google Translate or something. And so I'll start with just one comment about really what we mean when we hear this buzzword of artificial intelligence. There are so many buzzwords around. And really, I'm not a philosopher, and one can debate a lot about whether, about what AI is. You need to define what artificial means and what intelligence means. So let me take a stab at an operational definition that will suffice for the next 10 minutes. I simply mean a system that interacts in the world. It perceives its environment by means of observations. It has to make decisions that are going to affect the environment, and it receives a reward. And think I'm kind of reiterating this process. So every state and time, the system obtains an observation, needs to make a decision, and obtains a reward. And I will submit to you that this is a sufficient definition for an intelligent system. And you can already start to think, what are the kind of systems that you incorporate in your daily lives and whether or not they exhibit intelligence? So for example, an ATM, right, exhibits a lot of what I just told you about within the world. Does it exhibit intelligence? And indeed, Len, thinking about how to evaluate a system over whether or not it exhibits an intelligence being is a very interesting topic that is open for debate. So when we talk about AI systems, we also refer to fundamental capabilities that these systems should entail. And one of these capabilities is the ability to reason about the world. So by that, I mean reaching conclusions about in the midst of uncertainty that can help the system. If we talk about an autonomous vehicle, for example, this vehicle needs to understand that the car on the left is indeed a physical vehicle, while the bicycle that you see displayed on the back of this truck or SUV is just a picture of a bicycle and is not a bicycle in reality. So reasoning about the world is a very important capability. Another important capability is to be able to make rational decisions under this uncertainty. So for example, if my autonomous vehicle needs to choose the shortest route to get me back home safely from work, it should probably not run any red light and take the risk of injuring the car and the driver in the car. And the third very important capability that AI should exhibit is to be able to learn from experience. So, you know, I love hearing music when I drive. I actually do not have a car. I have a bicycle, but I hear music just the same. And there's a recommendation engine that is going to be recommending wonderful tunes for me to hear because it finds friends of mine, not necessarily people that I know, but people that have consumed music that I liked in the past. And it's going to recommend music that they themselves have consumed because there's more probability that I will indeed like this kind of music. And so a system that learns from experiences, this is what we commonly refer to colloquially as a machine learning system, and I will come back to in a few more minutes, is an important capability of AI. But by no means these capabilities help me to understand and to characterize and to classify a system as being intelligent. So again, this is an open, debatable question. What does it mean for a system to be intelligent? So some people might say, well, an intelligent system thinks like people. It is connected to processes that have the same kind of cognitive reasoning capabilities that humans have, and it uses these processes to be able to come up with all of the capabilities that I talked about in the last slide. Other people say, no, forget about thinking like people. The thinking process isn't what matters. What matters is, how does the system behave? Does it act in a way that we would consider to be intelligent? And the most famous proponent of this kind of trend is one of the forefathers of AI, Alan Turing, who implied that for computers to be intelligent, it's sufficient for them to behave in a way that an interrogator, if it asks questions for a machine and asks questions to a person, wouldn't be able to tell the answers apart. And this, of course, is the famous Turing test that some of you might have heard of. So Turing would say that the object of the game isn't to build a system that acts like a person, the same way that when we wanted a system to fly, we didn't build a plane that flaps its wings, we built a plane with a jet engine. So the proof of the pudding is in the behavior. And lastly, there are people who would claim, well, to build an AI system that acts intelligently, we need to outperform people. So think about beating the world chess champion, or about building machines that can become better teachers, better doctors, and better judges. And indeed, there are many people who think that the AI revolution is an extension of the Industrial Revolution. Just like when we built machines that could that would benefit the brawn of humankind, now we're building machines that are simply going to replace the intellectual ability of mankind. And indeed, there is a lot of money to be made these days, I'm just showing you here, about chatbots who can take our drive-in order in McDonald's and replace people on the phone, or even our shrinks, as you can see in this application here. And so I'm not making any decisions here about what counts as an intelligent system, because I don't think it's my role or place. I think it really depends on the type of task that we're building their system to operate well in. And here I should say that AI is very good at solving particular kinds of tasks, mainly tasks that we can well define computationally and serve to the computer to carry out algorithms for. And here really is where the power of machine learning comes to play. So if you recall, I spoke about machine learning as a capability that allows the system to learn from experience. And the big revolution of AI is the fact that we have more and more data being generated by our daily interactions, simply because we use technology so much. But also we have the ability to analyze this data by using sophisticated algorithms. And this is why we create amazing benefits for people to use AI coupled with machine learning for the benefit of companies and mankind. So for example, at Target, they can predict when a woman is about to give birth to the day with 99% accuracy, just by looking at her shopping trends. Here is an example I took from the New York Times. You're looking at two one is machine translated and another is human translated, of the Japanese version of The Snow of Kilimanjaro by Hemingway. And you'll see that it's really hard to tell them apart. And in fact, the machine generated version is here on the right. It's really, really hard these days to tell the machine translation apart. And again, this is due to the amazing development of having both the machine learning algorithms that is able to learn from data and algorithms that can analyze the data. So with all of this potential, what do you think that AI is bad at and needs a lot of help? And I would contend that AI is bad at being collaborative team members. So think about all of the amazing things that humans can do as teams. We get together and solve problems. We build countries together. We have webinars together. We brainstorm together. We guide each other and we speak a common language. And that allows us to be wonderful collaborators. So these soft skills that incidentally are not in the curriculum for most schools today, and I think are so important to human interaction, are actually what computers are very, very bad at. And I don't see them coming to any kind of revolution in the days to come. And so they're bad teammates because they're bad at inferring the intentions of their users. I mean, some of us are old enough to remember this dreaded Clippy example. They're bad teammates because they don't know how to communicate with their users. Look at some of these error projection reports that I collected off the web. You can see that the communication computers use is such that humans have a very difficult time to understand them. They're very bad at evaluating context. So you can see here a question that my old supervisor from Harvard gave to her iPhone, and the iPhone just wasn't able to come up with the right context when she asked it for the nearest gas station, because it didn't keep the connection going to the last questions. And lastly, computers are really bad at ethical reasoning, which is something that is so important for humankind to be to work as teams. So imagine if my autonomous vehicle has lost power of the brakes. Should it ram into the gateway here and sacrifice the driver, or ram into the school children that are crossing the road? These are the kind of ethical reasoning that computers are going to have to make, and they're very bad at it. They reflect the bias that exists in society when they need to make recommendations decisions. This is an example of a compass system, which was a system used for making suggestions for parole officers in California. And you can see here that it designated this Vernon character as a low risk and Briscia character as a high risk, despite having absolutely no reason to do so, just based on bias in society because of the color of their skin. And again, the recommendation engine reflected bias that is already occurring in society, but was unable to reason about. And so my point is that in order to, that the most important research effort in AI, and one that is being taken care of today in many places, in particular across Israel, is to build computers that can be good team players. Let me give you an example. So here's why humans are such good team members. When I give this course about operating systems at Ben Gurion University, 3 students came up to me during class time, and they showed me that this amazing rendition that they did of my course. So they did this kind of designation for the problem solving. One of the students was just writing verbatim what I was talking in class. Another student was doing all of the graphs. And the third student was orchestrating things together and making sure that the students talked and there were no mistakes. So that's one example of how a team player and orchestration is such a wonderful asset to have for humans. How can we get computers to exhibit is precisely where we should continue. And in that respect, I'll just mention some of my work in bringing AI to education to the fore. So I work with Israeli Arabs and Jews in various parts of the country, where we build tools that are kind of like collaborative assistants for teachers trying to guide students to solve problems together. So here, the students can interact on this collaborative tool board, and the teacher is able to understand whether they're operating well as a group. So the teacher receives kind of an air traffic control ability to understand, to track how groups of students work together. What the machine learning is doing is it's able to classify the statements that the kids are writing to each other, because they're using these chat systems, and understand whether they're experiencing technical problems or whether they're off task or on task. And it's able to have this bird's eye controller where one teacher can keep track of multiple groups working together in the same classroom. And if you're interested to find more about this kind of research, so the Israeli News Channel 10 actually did a very nice story about us. And it's all about making teachers better equipped to help students, as opposed to trying to replace the teacher. And again, this is a very important distinction. We don't want to replace people, but actually help them. And this is really, what my last thought here is, maybe to provide you with an alternative kind of Turing test. We don't want to distinguish between a person and a computer. What we really want to do is we want to build a computer that is able to act as a teammate, such that in the long term, people who work with the teammate are not able to distinguish it from a human. And we don't mean whether to actually not being able to tell it apart from a human, but just being comfortable to reason with it and to exhibit and to interact with it, because it's behaving exactly like you would expect from another teammate. And with that, Len, I finish. I just want to invite you all to explore some of our amazing research teams here at Ben Gurion, and also to tell Ariella, there's a lot more to AI in Israel than in Tel Aviv, a lot more. You should come to Ben Gurion and see for yourself. Toda.
Well, thank you very much. That was quite fascinating. I sort of think I've been proven wrong, although I think you said that there's, some debate as to whether they really are intelligence or thinking. So I'll have to give some thought to that. And, maybe I'll take your class. My Hebrew is a bit rusty. We do have a number of questions, and I think Amy will try to, parse through some of them. And if you've got a few minutes, we can ask these and become more educated.
So thank you, Professor Gall. Thank you, Len. With limited time, I'm going to combine two questions, and hopefully you can cover both. The questions that I have is, where is Israel in relation to this space? Is it at the forefront? Where is Israel in the mix? And also, what role does academia play in furthering AI and pushing the borders?
Yeah, so those are two great questions. I'll answer them from my own experience. So, I was educated. I did my PhD and postdoc in the States, and it would have been easy for me to stay in the States because there are amazing opportunities there, both for academia and for industry in terms of AI. But what's really, I think, so special about Israel is that it's such a small country. It's so easy to make an impact here. And by coming, especially to Ben Gurion and working in the Negev, I feel like a pioneer in the sense that things that I do, so for example, I gave you my work in AI and education, are actually making a difference for people on the ground. It's just much more easy here to get clearance, to find collaborators, for example, in the government that want to work with you. And the students here are amazing. So in that perspective, I think that Israel is a wonderful place to be exploring AI. There's a very interesting tension between academia that cares about developing algorithms and having and solving research problems, and industry that care about solving problems that matter for business. And that we sometimes have difficulty getting our wonderful students to actually stay and pursue research careers in academia because industry is so is beckoning. And we can never compete with the kinds of salaries students can earn in the industry here. But I think that the two have a very important role in coming up with in combining new ways of collaboration that solve important problems that have practical significance while also pursuing research problems. And again, in Israel, we have so many wonderful ways of doing that. So the government of Israel has research grants that are open to Israeli companies and academia applying together and showing just that. You have to show that you're pushing the envelope both in research, but also that this research has an actual practical application on the ground. And the idea is that the company and the academia work together. And I think that's a wonderful example.
Thank you so much. I see I have more questions coming in the chat and online, but I think we're going to move on. We will make sure we're able to get your answers to you directly if you have outstanding questions.
Of course, yeah, and feel free to contact me personally. I'm just a Google search away, Kobe Gall.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Len. Thank you, Professor Gall. And with that, I would like to switch to our panel and turn this over to my co-chair, Rob.
Thank you, Amy. It was a wonderful presentation from Professor Gall. We are so pleased to have with us today representatives of three innovative Israeli companies that are all using AI in their development. I'd like to introduce our panel members. We'll also get to see short videos to provide a little bit of background on each of them. The first one is CytoReason, an AI platform for drug discovery and development. And we're going to be joined today by CEO David Harrell.
There is a world where patients with fatal illnesses don't have to wait so long for the right treatment. A world where pharma and biotech companies run far fewer clinical trials and bring new drugs to patients without the burden of inflated costs and timelines. In this world, life-saving treatments are made possible by unimaginable technology. That world is here, now, with CytoReason. CytoReason's artificial intelligence platform is powered by proprietary pharmaceutical data learning from humans to cure humans, modeling the body, tissue by tissue, cell by cell, minimizing the need for animal trials, and making human trials more focused and accurate over time, giving pharma companies the ability to create life-saving drugs at a fraction of the time and cost, and opening up new opportunities to treat rare diseases with personalized medicine. Today, 5 of the world's top 10 pharma companies, including Pfizer, use Cytoreason's groundbreaking technology to discover and develop new drugs. This is biology of the future. This is a better world. This is Cytoreason.
And our next up is going to be a company called BeeWise, which is the Earth's first autonomous beehive. And we're joined today by CEO Saar.
Avocados, berries, apples, coffee. Imagine a world where none of these exist. 30% of the global food supply depends on a single species, the bee. In the same year the bee was declared the most important living being on Earth, more than 35% of the world's bees died. From lethal parasites to pesticides and disease, bees face unprecedented threats to their survival. Unfortunately, today's beekeepers cannot address these modern challenges with a 150-year-old technology, a wooden box.
At BeeWise, we've completely redesigned the beehive using artificial intelligence and advanced robotics. It is our responsibility, as the world's most capable species, to protect our most valuable neighbors here on planet Earth, and by that, protect the entire world. Our autonomous beehive, the first of its kind, monitors every bee, providing them with real-time care and support. We are revolutionizing beekeeping and saving billions of bees' lives. To save the bees, we don't need to think outside the box. We need to reinvent the box.
And finally, our third company is Halo, which is accelerating embedded AI applications. The CEO, or Danan, was unable to join us today, but we are very pleased to have his co-founder and CTO, Avi Baum.
Halo 8 is the world's top-performing AI processor for edge devices. Its revolutionary architecture delivers game-changing power efficiency, bringing processing capabilities never before seen at the edge. With Halo 8, the possibilities are endless. Manage traffic, monitor public spaces, or support city planning. Halo 8 allows maximum coverage and accurate detection with fewer cameras. In driver assistance and autonomous driving, every second counts. Halo 8 is a low-latency, low-power, automotive-grade AI processor that can be passively cooled in a forward-facing camera or ADAS ECU. Achieve significant business outcomes and high ROI with the highest-performing edge AI. Automate defect detection, create customized shopping experiences, or monitor safety. Halo's AI processor helps keep people and homes safe without compromising privacy. It can empower smart cameras and devices, as well as entire smart home networks. To help you start designing tomorrow's solution today, the Halo 8 is available in a variety of implementations. Halo's state-of-the-art devices are supported by a comprehensive software toolchain. Run your own application or use one of our out-of-the-box applications to accelerate time to market in creating real-world edge AI solutions. Boost your edge AI applications with Halo 8 today.
Gentlemen, thank you for being with us today. We have a few things we'd like to chat about together. First, we'd like to hear a little bit about what you're most excited about in each of your companies today. David, do you want to start off?
Sure. So as I hope you've seen the video, we're involved in multiple drug development programs. And obviously COVID these days are on everybody's mind. When the pandemic started a year and a half ago, we released our first ARDS model, that's simulation of the disease and what it does to the lungs. That's the main cause of death, what people typically call the cytokine storm. And I have to, I can gladly say that the first drugs that were developed on our model successfully completed trials just earlier this month. And after this wave of vaccinations, I hope that we would be able to save lives of patients using computer-generated drugs.
Thank you, David. Avi, what can you share with us?
Yes, so you probably saw that we are basically a system company delivering both hardware and software for doing inference of AI on edge devices catering for multiple industries. And just recently, we've completed the full cycle of qualification for our first product, and now we are in the whirlpool of catering it to real customers, seeing this in real products, and that's a very exciting period for us.
Thank you. Sar?
We've developed dedicated and custom algorithms and models using AI and machine learning and precision robotics to save the bees on this planet. Can it get any more exciting?
I'm always looking for them in my garden, and the more that we can find, the better. In light of Israel's role as a startup nation, we heard a little bit from Professor Gal about the Israeli government cultivating AI-based technology. In fact, I read that the new government's proposed budget will include a program to boost AI-based technologies through a national AI program. Can you tell us a little bit about whether your companies have received some benefit from government support, or if you're anticipating further? Sar, maybe.
Yes. Yes. So I'll just jump in and say, the state of Israel is pretty incredible. I lived 15 years in the U.S. in Washington State, and so I came here. I'm relatively new in Israel, only 3.5 years, and I was amazed at how involved the government is, but not in a scary way or in a creepy way, but actually is open and accessible, I would say, both from a financial standpoint, but also from a technology, innovation, guidance, and so on. So we, BWise, we have received, funds from the government, but actually I would even say grants, right? So almost no strings attached grants, just to propel and excel our technology for the sake of saving bees. And so they do their own due diligence on, what you offer and what are the benefits. But we did receive grants, in the 7 figures US dollars. And so I was very satisfied and pleasantly surprised by the efficiency, the efficacy, and how that works.
David, anything to add?
So, we have not used government resources to date. We've been financing the company for most of its life on revenues, and we were pleasantly surprised to hear the good feedback that other organizations had, and we would definitely explore that avenue in the future.
Avi?
Yeah, in our case, I shared the same experience as Sar explored. We're very happy to see the inspiring and the great work and job that the Innovation Authority here is doing. I would also add to that the fact that we are well connected. Israel is well connected to the European funding through Horizon 2020 and the New Horizon now, and that is also a great funding resource and a worldwide ecosystem that helps a lot inspire and propel innovation here.
Wonderful. It's not unusual for us to see leaders of Israeli technology companies with experience in IDF technology units. Maybe you can discuss a little bit the benefits of IDF training in this area and how you see whether there's a regular flow of talent, or are you seeing R&D challenges based on upcoming limited resources? Avi, maybe start off for this one.
Yeah, most of the founding team in our company is indeed coming from IDF technological unit background. I can say that these units actually educate for curiosity and multidisciplinarity, and that's something that is very important in a startup. On top of that, I would say that being a startup nation, as it is called many times, that there's a lot of challenging and compete over talent. However, when you solve and deal with a very interesting problem, you get access to good talent. So our experience is good on that ground.
Very good. Sar?
So the IDF is a great resource for talent, but unfortunately, they don't have any training on saving the bees. So, you know, not trying to dodge the bullet here, but pun intended. But the idea is that, you know, getting your hands on talent here in Israel is brutal. You know, IDF or no IDF, it's just hard. There's a lot of competition, not enough outflow of talent coming out of schools. And so, yeah, in our case, we try and pick anybody. We're not too picky. If we get people from the IDF, you know, all the better. But in our specific case, that's a less relevant source of you know, pool of talent.
Mm-hmm. David, what's been your experience?
So I would second some of what Sar was mentioning. There are not that many people that leave the Israeli military with life sciences, deep life sciences experience. However, the general experiences that people get in this critical phase of their life, whether officers, combat officers, engineers serving in a larger organization, is preparing them very well to life. And we've hired quite a few people that are coming out of the military service, either in technical positions, but in ancillary positions. And the experiences that they gathered were very helpful. Working in big organization with big organizations like the big pharmaceutical companies. So there is great benefit, even if it's not technical, in the military service.
Very good. You know, why don't we continue in terms of how you view AI continuing to revolutionize development of technology? David, we'll stay with you to kick this one off.
So I would suggest that the application of AI is slowly transforming many different aspects of business. I can say specifically towards the challenges in healthcare. Obviously, people in Israel and in the US keep hearing about the deficiencies of the healthcare systems day and night, although you can't really compare, but it's a major issue everywhere. And one of the biggest problems are that you need deep expertise in order to really impact patient lives. And we can see today, based on benefits of the cybersecurity and privacy industries, that AI in healthcare, the use of data, the training machines with data, the learning capabilities, completely transforming the way that healthcare is being produced and how healthcare is being delivered. And I would suggest that, at least in our little area, it is pretty clear today that in the future, the introduction of new treatment to patients completely going to change due to new technologies and data sciences.
Thank you. Avi, do you want to comment?
Yeah, we all heard the fascinating speech by Professor Gal, and I think data is surrounding us, and it's no more a matter of how much data is coming in, but how to mine it or how to extract data from it. And data is coming in an unstructured form. That's why AI is now becoming the new age of machines. So I think it will revolutionize everything in every part of life that we're doing.
Sarah, how was your view on this?
You know, just to piggyback on what Avi just said, you know, I don't think that AI will be like, you know, a binary thing. It's turned off or turned on. You know, I think we'll see a range or like a scale of AI-enabled devices. And like Avi said, I think will be pretty pervasive and ubiquitous. And so we'll just start seeing things operate, or just devices being a little less, stupid, for lack of a better word. So with that data that is being aggregated, generated, and mined in a more accurate way, we'll be able to see things become a little bit more oriented towards servicing and just operating better and a little bit smarter as time goes by, which we'll see that move and becoming more and more AI enabled and smarter.
Many of us grew up reading books or watching movies and television showing scary outcomes from machines with artificial intelligence. And Professor Gal commented on this a little bit, but what's your view on whether there are technological or ethical risks we should understand in today's world related to AI? Sar?
Oh, I might be a little bit extreme on that front. I'm a big follower of, Harari and Ray Kurzweil and these guys who see the future and AI kind of joining forces. And so I think that, the biggest risk, ethical or technological is tactical to me. The biggest risk is for us to become redundant, right? We used to replace humans with machines, and we just replaced muscle, so big cranes and tractors and so on. But AI is a whole different, it's kind of changing the game. And when you replace humans with artificial intelligence as time goes by, the risk is for us to become redundant, which is a much scarier risk to me than having AI control the world and, robots using us as just for energy. So that's my view.
Avi, what's your view?
I'm camped in a slightly different situation. I think that every new technology brings with it challenges and opportunities and risks, of course, and we cope with it. We always did, and I think we still will cope with it. I'm not concerned. I think we'll harness it for good, sometimes for bad, hopefully more for good than for bad. But I think it's yet another big wave of technology that will propel a lot of industries.
And David?
So I guess if I got to choose a camp, I'll choose SARS. Although I'm not that as radical, I would suggest that my biggest concern, or maybe in that regard, I'm more radical than SARS, is the computational technologies, and it started already, and AI is probably the biggest leap forward, going to increase the economic gap and the disparity in the population, making certain participants in the labor force significantly more powerful than others. And to the extent that we cannot support a stronger social network, that might be more difficult for certain parts of the population. I'm not specifically talking in one country or another. Obviously, this is beneficial for both Israel and the United States, but when you compare different countries, that can get worse.
Each of those was really fascinating responses. And I know from when we spoke earlier, we could probably go on for a long time talking about this issue. But we do want to give some time for Q&A. So I'm going to invite Amy back in to help facilitate that process. And I want to thank each of you for great participation.
Sorry about that. Thank you so much, Rob, and thank you so much to all of our panelists. We do have quite a bit of questions, so we'll get to what we can, and also hoping some of you can click on the Zoom link and come on screen and further discussion that way if we don't get to everything. But I have a few questions for BeeWise. And one is, can you give us an explanation of exactly how BeeWise is using AI to help beekeeping? And then I'll just add one more question in there, which is also, what is the background of the team? Was it AI or was it agriculture or a combination?
I'll start with your second question. Most of our team, in terms of the technology, the underlying technology, is AI-based. Doctors from the Technion and from Ben-Gurion University, actually, doctors in physics, AI, biological models, We even have a PhD in applied mathematics with expertise in biological models. So there's a lot of expertise because in these devices that you see right behind me, there are 3 million bees. And so it's a very chaotic system that you have to follow and understand and develop time series and understand how to cope. And so that brings me to how do we actually save bees? Well, it turns out that the biggest problem with bees is that we're losing them. This is sometimes referred to as colony collapse disorder, CCD. And if it was just one issue like COVID, it would be much easier to resolve. You know your problem, you know where you have to, you know what success looks like. With bees, it's a plethora of issues that are happening all at the same time. It's kind of a modern stressors like climate change and pesticides and disease and pests. And you know, there's a variety of issues that really affect bees and which results in colony collapse disorder. Amazingly enough, AI is very efficient at identifying the specific issue at hand with a specific colony at hand and suggesting a very specific treatment. For example, if bees need water or food or a specific medicine or treating pests or harvesting the honey. And so we have a small robot in our device that monitors the bees with computer vision, identifies the issue at hand, and applies a specific treatment with the precision robotics. So it's all masterminded by AI, so to speak.
Thank you. Okay, for Avi at Halo, I'm going to combine a couple questions. One is there's a lot of debate about cloud versus edge, edge AI. What is your point of view on this? And what are your big applications going to be for this technology? Autonomous vehicles and what other major applications?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for that question. So, of course, being a caterer for Edge AI, we take the aspect that Edge AI is a must-have, but we see it as complementary to what happens on the cloud, like happened in the mobile devices in the past, where more powerful mobile devices actually enhanced and complemented what happens in the cloud. So we believe that as more and more sensors are deployed, and that also addresses the other part of the question, we believe every camera would eventually become a device that would have to somehow be smart enough and deliver only necessary information to the cloud. And with that respect, we also address many issues and many scenarios where camera deployed in cities, in retail stores, in homes are being processed on the spot, and only necessary data is delivered with the right content and with necessary metadata to further processing.
Thank you. I'm going to turn to Cyto Reason and David and do the same, combine a couple questions in the interest of time. What are some of the biggest obstacles you're facing, and what will developing drugs look like in the next 20 to 30 years? Oh, David, you're on mute.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Here in Israel, we always feel that we're out of the quarantine. Used to being with people in the office. So as I said in the beginning, the time, that's the biggest obstacle that we experience is the time that it takes to validate the technology, because drug discovery and development are extremely lengthy processes. So drugs that we've been working on 18 months ago under all the emergency approvals just got into clinical trials, or just finished clinical trials now. So the length of time in this industry is challenging. It's challenging from a validation of technology. It's challenging from data gathering, and it's challenging from, if we're thinking from financial perspective on generating returns. The amazing component is that it's evident that data science and being smarter on how we do those bigger projects are going to save cost and reduce the cost of drug development significantly. So when we think about 20 years from now, and we start to see that today, the treatments that are going to be developed using data are going to get smaller and smaller, addressing smaller and smaller population sizes, and treatments would become more personalized than they ever been. So instead of developing large blockbusters that would go to everybody and treat only major diseases, we are starting to see more segmented treatments that are addressing smaller patient populations, and hopefully that also going to reduce the cost and increase efficacy of more unique type of profiles of patients. So that's where it goes. The process has started. It's just taking a long time to see.
Thank you. So in the interest of time, because I know we're running tight, I have I'm going to ask two questions that are for all the panelists combined. One is, what are your thoughts on getting beyond machine learning and getting to machine reasoning? And then separately, can you tell us where you are in the funding process and how to learn more? And I'll just jump in to say that Halo and CytoReason you can both find through OurCrowd. And then I will let Sar weigh in on BWise. But if you could, if we could go around, just answer those two questions, and then we'll wrap up. Do you want to start, Sar?
Sure. We're fine with machine learning. Machine reasoning is, I think, way more advanced than what we need for our application. But I mean, no, I'm kidding. I'm a technologist by trade and nature, so anything that you know the world can throw at us, we'll definitely try and apply to our mission of saving the bees. We think it's important, and we're definitely behind on that. Just so everybody knows, we're losing 40% of the colonies every single year. 40% of all the bees on this planet are dying every single year. So machine reasoning, bring it on. We'll definitely apply it towards saving the bees any day of the week. As for funding, we are raising our Series C, and so if anybody's interested, we're available and accessible on LinkedIn and bwise.ai or .ag. And so feel free to follow up and reach out to us.
Great. David, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, thank you. So obviously, machine learning is a major component of our technology as we are trying to get our simulation of the diseases more and more accurate. The reasoning component is actually a difficult one in human biology because the amount of data that is typically required, at least as far as we know today, is very expensive to generate. We would expect, as Sar said, we would take any new technology that comes out, but my expectation is that we're still a little bit ahead of this technology rolling out in commercial applications.
Did you want to add anything on where the company's at in funding?
So we are just we are in the midst of our first financing round. OurCrowd, you can invest through OurCrowd. I think that there is a link to OurCrowd platform on our website, or you can go to the OurCrowd website, or you can email me or find me on LinkedIn.
Thanks, David. Avi?
Yeah, so similar to what my colleagues have said, reasoning is a more of a philosophical definition. As long as it can be deployed on a machine, we'll adopt it. I think we're still ahead of it. And as for the funding round, we are also in the midst of our round C and available on the OurCrowd platform.
So thank you to everyone. I just want to say thank you for taking the time to join us today. If you are interested in getting involved with AICC, please let us know. Again, our mission is to further the relationship between Chicagoland area and Israel, and further those business ties. We'd love to have you. We're always looking for new board members. And thanks again for joining us. And I hope you will join us on screen. There's a link in the chat function. You can cut and paste and get on Zoom and have a little bit more conversation. And if you sent questions and didn't get them answered, we'll be sure to follow up with you. So again, thank you so much for joining us and looking forward to continuing the discussion. Thanks to all our panelists and everybody who participated.